Hello, everybody. Today I'm here with Justin Sanciangco from the Philippines.
Yeah.
He is a software engineer at Givery. Justin, can you introduce yourself and tell the audience what you do at Givery?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Justin. I am a back-end engineer at Givery, primarily working for a product called Track Jobs. And I've been working with Givery for almost 3 years now. First year, just as a contractor, because I was based in the Philippines. I couldn't really come to Japan because of the lockdown. But then, Givery was able to fix my documents and bring me here as of September of 2022. Yeah.
Cool.
So I've been here almost a year as a full-time developer.
And as a back-end developer at Givery, what does your day-to-day look like? What are you doing during the day most of the time?
So I guess to start off the day, like I usually check all my tasks for the day. We are doing Scrum as our project management style, and everything is just listed down like for that sprint, right, for the whole week of things to do. And like normally I just do the day coding. Pretty much most of the day. If I need to talk to my peers, I just do it via Slack, because Givery is also like fully remote. We're not actually required to come to the office unless there's a special occasion. And pretty much coding most of the day. And at the end of the day, so Track Jobs does things differently. I guess like that's also the thing about Givery's projects. Like each team can kind of dictate what works for them best. Since we work with some team members are from like countries which, don't really, if we do the stand-ups in the morning, it will be really hard for them. So we do it in the afternoon. So that's technically most of the time, that's my only meeting for the day. Just 30-minute stand-up with my team members who I love to talk to. Yeah.
Can you speak about the overall company culture at Givery? In your own words, like what's it like here? What's the culture here?
Sure. I guess like I can speak for it, but I can only speak for it from the perspective as an engineer, right? In the engineering culture per se. I would say, so one of our tenets is like empower engineering. And like I could say that in my like almost 3 years here, like I've seen that it's really upheld in the day-to-day work culture. So for example, like as a back-end engineer, sometimes I need to like decide on which stack I will build upon, and everyone has a say in the team. So like usually we start out by making like a design document of the technical specifications. I share it with the team. Even like, I would say that even the QA and front-end engineers can have a say on it. So it's a very like democratic process, I would say. And everyone is encouraged to speak up, right? Like if something bothers them about the way we do things, like the process, like for example, like I mentioned earlier, like one engineer was bothered like because he had to wake up super early because of his time zone. So we adjust it, right? That's kind of what I've observed like, so far. It's really empowering engineering. Yeah.
Is there a specific aspect of the culture that's important to you, like more than the others? Or is there something that's really important to you about Givery's culture?
I mean, I guess that's pretty much it, like empowering engineering, right? Because like I've worked, so before joining Givery, I had my own thing and I have my own business in the Philippines. I was running a software development company. I worked with many different clients who each had their own like engineering culture within them. So and basically like, and this is no bias, like I've seen so bad, like really the worst engineering culture where engineers are treated like, not good.
Yeah.
And I would say here in Givery, like engineers are valued. like a lot. Yeah.
And I know that I guess Givery as a whole has a value called give and give, which I think of as being team oriented. But can you explain the meaning and the importance of give and give within Givery?
Right. So it kind of means like, well, actually, it's both internal and external. Like for me, from how I understood it, like basically, from the Givery itself is named by this tenant, and then it kind of suggests that we put our customers first. I feel like that's the core of it. Like we give and give, right? And at the same time, we don't forget our team members who, without the efforts of our team members, engineering, including the other departments, like we wouldn't be able to give the most that we can give, right? So therefore, yeah, like that's kind of how I understood it.
So I think during the conversations today, I hear a lot about like how good and nice everyone is here, and like I was like wondering like what do you think contributes to that kind of like team camaraderie and like just a good culture that Givery has here?
I do believe so. First, it starts with the hiring. So I've been part with a few I've been part with a few hiring like interviews recently, and the one thing that we focus on a lot is actually the culture fit, right? Like the tech is easy. Like if you're an engineer, you're an engineer. You can code, but whether or not you fit with the culture of Givery is another matter, and that's I guess like that's a very important thing that we try to find with our candidates applying to us, like culture fit. And I do believe that with the current like engineers that we have now, with the team that we built, because when I joined it was only 20 people, and now there's like I don't even know, like 40, 45.
Yeah.
Like it's just like we just work well together. I don't know what else to say. Like anyone is free to talk to anyone else, to ask for opinion, to ask for advice. We do cross-team collaboration sometimes. And from my perspective, at least, everyone loves working with each other here. No bias, yeah.
So as an engineer, you said that you spoke to, I guess, of course, front-end engineers, and then I assume other people as well. Like,
correct.
Well, what kind of like stakeholders exist when you're talking about a feature or a spec, and how do you guys communicate with each other?
So since it's primarily like a Japanese company, and unfortunately I'm still learning, but my Japanese is still not there yet. We have this bridge. So in our team, we have Trung, who's Vietnamese, and he's bilingual. So he's a project manager, and he collaborates mostly with the stakeholders, which is, they're primarily Japanese people, right? He takes in the requirements, digests them, shares them with us. So we're even part of those meetings. We have like translate on Zoom whenever we join those meetings. So just so we have an idea on what's being spoken, how decisions are made. And then they get translated into individual tickets for us to do, right? Even in that point, even with the language barrier, because of that tenet I mentioned in power engineering, we have a say, right? Like, in fact, they try hard to ask for our opinions, even though it might be hard with the language barrier. But it is there. The process is there.
And for you personally, who do you talk to the most in terms of like the role that you talk to the most?
The role, like a specific person? Eh?
Sure.
Okay, so I guess it's probably going to be my project manager right now in the team, as long as along with my team members, right? Because since I'm a back-end engineer, I work hand in hand with my fellow back-end engineers as well as the front-end engineers, telling them the specs that we make, how we make the APIs and stuff. And it would be primarily my project manager, because I need to run by, I need to make sure. So because of the language barrier, like it is on my onus, right, to make sure that I understand it perfectly, like what needs to be done. So therefore, that's probably he's probably the guy.
Sure. And as an engineer at Givery, I know that you guys are empowered, but does your role like need or have any oversight or like, I don't know, direction as a backend engineer?
So that's also another thing. Of course, I welcome, right? Like it's more like we are most of the time we're left to do autonomously, to perform autonomously in our jobs. No one micromanages at Givery. But the one thing that we're trying to promote now is actually transparency. Hence why we initiated these design docs. So everyone, is able to comment, to suggest a better way of doing things, or to just to have an idea on how you're doing it, right? Because again, knowledge sharing is also an important aspect of a good team, right? So yeah, with that process in mind, like it's like we're free to act autonomously, but then we should also welcome, right, suggestions or criticisms, like constructive criticisms at least, with our work and how we do things, so that we can improve as engineers.
Nice.
I feel like that's important.
Yeah. And I guess in terms of just personal growth for you, Justin, when you think about the you that joined, and then the you now, so I think it's been about 3 years. Have you been able to develop and work on some, tech skills and soft skills during that time that you've wanted to develop?
So I would say, in terms of tech skills, one of the stacks here at Givery is we're using Scala, like it's functional programming. So that's something new to me, coming from a TypeScript, like Node.js background. So that's definitely something I've been working on, right? In terms of soft skills, though, I would say that that's where the growth was a lot more than my tech skills, just because, like, of course, with coming from a different country and like coming to Japan, the experience with working with a Japanese company can be a bit different, right? And I would say, like, seeing the day-to-day and like seeing how people deal with each other, how engineering deals with other departments here, like taught me to like how the Japanese way of doing things is, right? And I feel like that's not at all necessarily a bad thing. It's just something different, and it's just something that me coming here, that I willingly try to assimilate. That, and also the language, of course.
Sure.
Because that's also the thing. Like, this is a personal thing, but I am actively trying to learn the language, and it's a big interest of mine. And because of the freedom that Givery offers, right? Like, there's that. I have time for that. I actually have time to learn the Japanese language as I do my work. So I think it's a great thing.
And you talked about freedom. I know that Givery has, like, I think, an intentionally light sprint system. Can you talk a little bit about what the freedom that Givery gives you, allows you to do, in terms of, I think, improving the product, or working on Japanese, or whatever it is?
Sure. I would say that in terms of like workload, I know, like, before coming here to Japan, honestly, the rest of the world's perspective about Japanese work isn't really like something good, I believe, right? Like, it's like, like Zangyo, like overwork and stuff. Like, I would say there's so much, like, I was really surprised coming here to Givery. Like, the work-life balance is there, definitely there. And in terms of freedom, I would say, you just plain and simple, like, the company's not killing you. Like, there's no, I have not worked a day of overtime here at Givery ever since I joined, which was really, like, I was ready for it, but I was surprised it wasn't there. As well as, like, in terms of the, how would I say this? In terms of the, I kind of lost my thought there. Like, in terms of how work is being done, again, I think I mentioned it earlier, like, you're free to do things on your own, as long as, like, the team, it's good for the team, it's good for the product, right? So, so yeah.
And I guess in terms of like a flexible work environment, I know what does Givery offer, and what does it allow you to do in terms of I think remote and how you work.
So, as an engineer at Givery, we are full remote. We're not required to come to the office. We are also flexi time, right? As long as basically the way I felt having worked here for a while now is that, you know, as long as you do a good job, like you just finish as an engineer, you have your tickets, you just do those to the best of your ability, then everything is good, right? Like that's kind of how it kind of rubbed off to me working all these years. There are processes, of course. As a full-time employee, you have to do the time in and time out, right? But in general, like it's just as long as you do a good job to the best of your ability, then all is well. Yeah.
Justin, do you have like a personal idea of, I guess, what it takes for somebody to succeed here other than hard work or just doing your job, I think is what you just said.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that people need to do well here and to succeed here?
Sure. Like I mentioned earlier, I feel like good culture fit is necessary, which to be honest, like I think we do a good job during the interview, like of kind of knowing whether this person fits or not, right? Aside from that, I would say just having that growth mindset. So one of our tenets is actually going beyond yourself. And as long as you're just trying to aim, you know, for a higher version of yourself next quarter, because we do our evaluations quarterly, by the way. We kind of have, you know, if you do a good enough job, you get a raise every quarter here, like as long with a bonus, right? So with that system in place, it's like it kind of gives you incentive to do better than yourself every quarter. It's not like a yearly thing. It's like normal companies, right?
Sure.
Like a quarterly thing.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I think earlier you talked a little bit about Givery's wants to do what's right for the customers, right? Which is, I guess, give and give. Do you know how Givery decides on which features to implement and how they know that they're solving the right problems for their users?
Right. So I believe, as with any product, it requires a close collaboration with the people using the product and the people actually like selling the product to the customers. And that's kind of what we do here at Givery. In fact, those meetings I mentioned earlier with the Japanese stakeholders, right? It's not just the boards, the head, like the board member, right? It's also with the sales team, with the marketing team, everyone, right? It's called a win session in my calendar, and basically we discuss there along with the pluses, like what happened during this month. We discuss what the new findings are, how to improve. You know, it's like an open brainstorming session on how things could be improved, right? And from there, you know, ideas sprung up. So we're kind of like, that's why I feel like the whole process is we're kind of close to the customers, the whole product cycle, right? Yeah. Oh, that, and as well as, of course, dog fooding. Kind of like in track tests, for example, we use track tests for our interviews, right? We use our own products. So, I mean, it's not rare to see like internal members suggesting things that could be improved for the product because we're using it, right? Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I think you use track test, I think is what you just said.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit about what track test is to the audience that might not know?
So track test is it's an online testing platform, and basically, so it's being leveraged. So primarily, it functions as a screening, screening for applicants, for engineering applicants specifically, right? So, you know, like you could imagine that there's an IDE online. You open track test, it's an IDE online, and you take a bunch of tests, and you get evaluated. Like when you hit submit, it gets evaluated on the spot. So it helps out, I guess, our clients, the companies, like rapidly screen candidates, right? Yeah.
I see. And so, last question before we go. During your software developer career, can you tell me what you've learned about what it means to be a better software engineer?
Sure. I would say it's like, I feel like every software developer kind of goes through the cycle where midway, like, of course, you're still learning. For early on, you're still learning how to code. Midway, you care too much about the code. And at the end of it, like just at the 90th percentile, right, you start caring less about the code and more about the product itself, what you're building and how it affects your customers and the features that you're going to deliver, right? And I feel like that's what kind of separates like good software engineers from great software engineers. Great software engineers actually care about the product and the customer that they're building for and building on, right? Whereas like, simply good software engineers would just care just about the code and nothing else, how it works, like the coding style, those small things. At the end of the day, if a feature doesn't get delivered to the customer, then it's a useless feature, right? So those are my thoughts there.
Do you have any advice for someone that wants to become more like, I guess, product oriented, or I think what you just described? Do you have any thoughts about how you think they should go about it, or?
Sure. I would say that I know as software engineers, we tend to sit on our computer chairs the whole day and just look at the screen and just start typing code. I would say start talking to the other people in the company is the first step. Start, I'm pretty sure somewhere in the company you're building a product, someone is like benefiting from the product that you're building, or he or she is trying to sell it. I would start by like just trying to open a communication line directly to that person to know how they feel about the product and just taking in that criticism. I know that can be daunting, I feel like, for software engineers, but I feel like it's an important step to lead to that, like you mentioned, like product oriented mindset. Yeah.
And I guess one more question,
Sure.
If that's okay with you. I know that you used to work at a consultancy, right? Or you had your own consultancy. Yeah. Is there any like skills that you brought from this consultancy that you use here every day?
Oh, so I would say it's because the way this kind of might sound weird, but like in my product consultancy before, I was dealing with clients. So I kind of treat, like, we're building products for clients. I kind of treat Givery right now as my number one client. And I'm building I'm trying to, what's the term? I'm trying to see it from their eyes, like in terms of the product I'm building, right? And again, going back to that product-oriented mindset, I feel like that might be it. To simply put it, that might be the one that I kind of brought into Givery, like having that, instead of looking the code as is, looking at it from the perspective, the product it creates from the perspective of the stakeholders as well as the customers, and kind of seeing what's important for them and deciding what features to build, how to prioritize, etc. Yeah,
that's such wonderful advice. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you.
That was Justin, a software engineer at Givery.